Here's what we'll cover in Unit 14, HR in small and entrepreneurial firms. We'll start by identifying the challenge for small businesses when it comes to HR functions, responsibilities, and processes, before discussing the benefits and advantages that small firms have when it comes to familiarity, flexibility, and informality. We will discuss the option of using professional employer organizations, or PEOs, and then finish up by learning more about managing HR systems, procedures, and paperwork. Let's get started. When we talk about small businesses, there really isn't anything small about them. While an organization that you run yourself might have lower sales or a smaller market than a large organization, there is still a lot to do in order to set up that business for success and to continuously maintain policies and procedures to keep the business running effectively and efficiently. About half of the people working in the United States today work for small firms, which account for most of the 650,000 or so new businesses created every year in the US. Small firms also create most of the new jobs in the US. Small businesses can range from independent coffee shops to small clothing stores to individuals selling products they make themselves on platforms like Etsy.com. Organizations with fewer than 100 employees rarely have an HR representative. That means that the CEO or owner of the organization handles everything from benefits to payroll. We've learned a lot about HR management this semester already, and you can only imagine how much time it would take for someone to not only run that business, but to make sure that all of the topics we've covered this semester are handled effectively and in accordance with local and federal laws. When it comes to priorities, many small organizations need to focus on being profitable and staying afloat. In the midst of COVID 19 closures, this is why we see so many small businesses struggling. Small organizations often don't have extended reserves in order to keep them running at the same rate if they don't have as many customers. They depend on their bottom line. Generally, the extras like benefits or learning and development programs have to take the back seat to priorities like making sure a storefront is ready for customers or a website is functional. Small firms often have the benefit and hardship of having more informal procedures and policies. Policies are also more difficult to set in stone at smaller firms, including how much vacation time employees should get and when they should be able to take it. Compensation strategy is another aspect of small organization that differs from large companies that operate in multiple cities and have several product lines. Many small organizations are not very flexible in what they can pay. Founders of small firms are often concentrated on growth and managing control of their organization. It becomes imperative to recognize when managing everything necessary to sustain the business becomes too much for one person or a few people at the top to manage. Entrepreneurship is a challenge, and very often small organizations find ways to outsource some of the challenges they face in order to be successful. Three things that many organizations that are small have in common are familiarity, flexibility, and informality. Familiarity means that many times, because organizations are so small, employees get to know each other very well and form deeper relationships. Operating a small business often means working with friends or family, and that colleagues are more familiar with each other than at large firms. Open door policies and team building take on new meanings at small firms, where these can take place more organically than at large hierarchical organizations. Sometimes this means that work comes home with employees, which can be taxing. Often, though, familiarity means that employees get to skip the pleasantries and get down to the real work at hand without worrying about corporate culture initiatives. Flexibility is also more prevalent at small firms. Allowing for flexible work schedules, understanding employee needs directly, and shifting business practices to accommodate certain preferences allows for small businesses to provide exceptional value to employees and often influences tenure and loyalty. For example, at a mom and pop coffee shop, If the owner of the organization decides to have a professional development day for everyone who works at the shop, they can choose to close the store for the day and take everyone on an outing. That wouldn't necessarily be the case at a place like Starbucks, where store profitability directly affects the corporation. And most store managers do not have the authority to close down a location in order to plan a team bonding activity. Informality goes hand in hand with familiarity and flexibility. Have you ever helped out a family member at work or worked with a friend? Having common bonds and relationships from the start means that certain things like communication styles and policies can be a bit more relaxed to accommodate work groups. Training can be informal at small firms and can be modeled from one high performing employee to a new employee, or for someone hoping to take on more responsibility. Think about it this way: if your family runs a plumbing business, you might train under your cousin or your uncle who's been at the job for a while and knows how to do things in the most efficient way. You wouldn't necessarily have company competencies or a learning and development plan to adhere to, but you would still get the kind of development and learning that you need to do your job well and to grow. We talked about informality, and in some ways, informality at an organization can be beneficial. Think about a family business, for example. Let's go back to our plumbing example. If a son works for his father but needs to take off a day to attend an event, he can easily approach his dad and say, "Hey, can you handle things for the day so I can go fulfill this commitment?" This might be a little easier than trying to take off work when you work for a major corporation and are bound to the rules and regulations surrounding time off. Informality can have its downsides, though. Mismanagement of documents or a failure to adhere to federal, state, or local requirements can put small firms in legal trouble. Making sure that policies and procedures protect employees and the organization, regardless of how informal group relations are, is imperative for business owners. As we mentioned before, there are many different aspects of HR management that need to be fulfilled, regardless of whether or not the organization is large enough to have an HR department. These tasks can overwhelm an owner or manager, and the informality of having one person manage so many different things can let things fall through the cracks. HRIS, or Human Resource Information Systems, contain software designed for HR purposes, which create digital files for each employee, for groups like full time employees or part time employees, and organize information into reports so that leaders can understand trends and influence decision making using that data. These systems may be expensive, but they help with record keeping and processing of information. Without an HRIS, paperwork can be time consuming and duplication may create data entry errors. Employee data, like their name, address, marital status, and so on, often appears on multiple human resource forms. Owners of small firms also have to think about how operating in an informal manner might affect their ability to be competitive in the market. Think about the example that we used before about our mom and pop coffee shop being able to shutter the doors for the day in order to take their employees on a team building adventure. While this is an advantage of informality as it pertains to training, it also may turn off customers who rely on this coffee shop to be open on their way to work. They know that they can always count on a local Starbucks location and may grow to prefer the consistency from a more corporate organization. This could end up losing the small company customers and sales. Beyond that, owners of small firms need to consider that if they cannot efficiently hire, train, appraise, and compensate employees, they may not be able to compete with other companies that can. They may lose out on excellent candidates for their company because they can't offer as much. One solution to this for small businesses is to use professional employer organizations, or PEOs. These organizations take on some of the pressure points, like human resource responsibilities, for owners of small organizations. Many small business owners, pressed for time and concerned about the legal pitfalls of personnel blunders, opt to outsource all or most of their human resource functions to vendors. This allows the business leader more time to work toward the bottom line. If the owner of our mom and pop coffee shop in the example we used earlier needs to dedicate less time to processing paperwork, seeking out learning and development opportunities, and managing payroll, they can spend more time doing what they love, running the coffee shop, dreaming up new beverages, and interacting with their customers. PEOs range from specialized payroll companies to organizations that handle all of an employer's human resource management needs to benefit managers. They can recruit and hire employees, provide training resources, manage records, help determine benefits, and keep a firm legally protected. There are some downsides of PEOs: cost, lack of control, and investment in choosing and switching all weigh into a small firm's decision making process. Ultimately, though, many small businesses decide the extra help is worth the cost once it hinders their ability to work on their business. Here's a quick video to explain a bit more about PEOs and what this particular one could offer your small business.
Being part of a group has its perks. If you are starting or running a business and looking for support with benefits, payroll, compliance, and HR related tasks, then you might want to consider a professional employer organization, or PEO. A PEO can provide your team access to big company benefits at affordable rates and help you manage employment related compliance. They can also help you streamline back office administrative functions like payroll and certain HR tasks. PEOs can help you save time and money, take great care of your team, and avoid fines. JustWorks is a certified PEO. That means that we're subject to IRS reporting, bonding requirements, and audits. With JustWorks, you get simple software and expert support for payroll, benefits, and HR, so you can run your business with confidence. To learn more on how we can help, visit justworks.com.
There are also resources provided by state and local governments to help small businesses in the forms of guides, process charts, resources, and trainings, so that small businesses can make sure they are adhering to local and national laws and regulations. For example, there are resources that explain how small organizations can work to ensure compliance with the rules of the Occupational Safety and Health Administration and equal employment opportunity legislation, among others. In general, managing HR systems, procedures, and paperwork is complicated, no matter the size of your business or the number of employees. As small firms determine how best to handle HR paperwork, they must first recognize how much they need to consider. Application forms, hiring and onboarding documents, performance management forms, company policies and handbooks, and that's just the beginning. For a few employees, paper or digital files might suffice. But as the firm grows, a more formalized way of documenting and managing employees is necessary. HR information systems, which we discussed a bit earlier, organize information into reports so that leaders can understand trends to influence decision making. These systems allow for customization and, in some ways, can replace or supplement a full HR function at a small firm. They contain software packages that can send alerts, compute annual bonuses, and keep employee data secure. Plenty of focused HR software companies exist to help small business owners get started. From Zenefits, which deals with benefits enrollment, to time off tracking, like companies like Bamboo HR, to writing employee handbooks like HR Direct. There are several ways to get an HR function off the ground without a dedicated resource. As you start your career as an HR professional, this opens up options for you to work at a professional employer organization as a consultant to one or more businesses, in addition to the more traditional route of working for a specific company to manage one or more aspects of that organization's HR responsibilities. Either way, the opportunities in the HR field are ever expanding regardless of the size of the company. And if you're a small business owner, there are resources available to help you so you don't have to manage it all on your own. I can't wait to see where you will go next. Thanks for listening. See you soon.